This is the Young Bucks.
And you're listening to the This Is Awesome Wrestling Show. To Sweet Me.
Produced by the Cleveland Sound Radio Network. Here is the This Is Awesome Wrestling Show, hosted by Glenn Moore and Steve Guy.
Episode number 91, This Is Awesome Wrestling Show. I am your host, Glenn Moore. And before we get into our fill-in co-host for this evening, because Steve Guy, family emergency, not be able to record this week, and thoughts with him and his family today. But I want to bring in our co-host right now, a man that has never been in the studio, a man that hasn't ever been heard on the podcast, his voice, but a man that we mention a lot because he always tweets at us. He always chats with us at AIW. He always is very vocal about the podcast, a very avid listener, a man probably only person that's probably listened to every single episode of the show. A man that you see at AIW a lot. If you watch the videos, you see his big red beard in the first row. Over 50 shows for AIW, has his 5-year anniversary coming up. He always live tweets the AIW shows. Very vocal of wrestling on Twitter. I want to bring on Justin Summers coming on the show as filling in as co-host, and he is the official and the only This Is Awesome Wrestling Show intern. Justin, last minute notice. Really appreciate you coming up here and being in studio to talk some wrestling with me.
And I brought Chipotle.
And you did. You did the old the Steve Guy. You brought some of the Chipotle. No Chipotle for Steve. He's going to be very upset about it. But I feel like you'll be back up here, so you'll be all right.
Episode 100.
Yeah. Like I said, this is episode 91 of the podcast. And some announcements before we get into talking some wrestling here. We have a shirt on Pro Wrestling Tees. Finally, the design got approved. The store is approved. It's under my name since the show is under 5,000. You need a certain requirement. And my Twitter account has the requirement. So we made a little store. This Is Awesome Wrestling Show t-shirt is available on Pro Wrestling Tees. If you didn't buy it this past weekend, you cannot use the promo code America. You would have gotten 20% off Pro Wrestling Tees, but it's still available for $19.99. The links are on our Twitter page and also on Facebook. You guys can check those out and buy a t-shirt, man. Support the show. And it's like buying us a few beers, basically, if you do buy a t-shirt and you get to physically wear it. And if you do buy a t-shirt and you are at AIW or a wrestling event that you're out and about, even a WWE live event, and you wear This Is Awesome Wrestling shirt and you tweet a photo, or if you see me and take a photo with either Steve and I, we'll do something nice for you. We don't know yet, but we will do something nice for you. And we had a couple sales already, which is one more than I thought it would be. And no, it's not my parents buying these t-shirts. These are legit strangers. I have no clue who they are buying these t-shirts. So, like I said, Pro Wrestling Tees, they have t-shirts for pretty much every single indie wrestler / former WWE wrestler, legends as well, podcasts. Just search there, but buy our t-shirt. This Is Awesome Wrestling t-shirt. It's our logo. It's in a nice gravel color, and it goes in any size. So all you big boys out there, you can, like myself, it does have your size, so you can check those out. The links are on our Twitter and Facebook. All right, let's just jump right into it. Not a big, week of news when it comes to professional wrestling.
Nope.
SmackDown's being taped as we speak right now, and the big news when it comes to SmackDown and coming to the Tuesday nights. But the Summerslam match for Brock Lesnar is announced, and it's Lesnar versus Randy Orton, which I don't think we've ever seen. Have we seen it? We've never seen it before. Have they ever locked horns? Justin, you're the perfect guy for this because you are like a walking encyclopedia of wrestling.
I have the benefit of Google sometimes, but I think OVW, because that's one of the biggest classes that come up when people talk about OVW. They talk about John Cena, Brock Lesnar, Randy Orton. So, and Batista too. I can't forget Batista. So when those guys came up, they made that name. So I want to say they have.
Yeah, but not on a WWE programming.
If it's one of those things, they've had matches, but nowhere near the magnitude that they will at SummerSlam.
And obviously, Lesnar is fighting for UFC. a few nights before, or when? No,
This Saturday.
This Saturday. So he's obviously going to be coming off the heels for that. And, even talk about Lesnar. He made some comments in the interview and basically saying, I don't care what Stephanie thinks. And, people talking about steroids. And he goes, I'm just a big, white country boy. Mm-hmm. Lesnar just doesn't give a fuck. He's he is a guy that lives out in the border of Minnesota and Canada. You have to call some other number to get a hold of him because he's middle of nowhere. He just has his wife, Sable, his kids, and he likes to be left alone, doesn't like people. This is a guy you have to, drive middle of the woods to find. And he just doesn't care. He's not a PR guy. People love him for wrestling and UFC, and he is a bankable guy WB has, but he just doesn't give a fuck. He's not going to spit your corporate jargon. He's not going to be all lovey-dovey. He tells it like it is. That's what I love about Brock Lesnar, because of the physicality in the ring, but also his don't give a fuck attitude.
He's one of those guys that you pay him and that's what he wants, and he'll do whatever he wants after that.
I'm wondering if there's going to be a feud built up from now, Thursday when they officially announce this, to SummerSlam. Is it just going to be Lesnar and Orton meeting, in the middle of the ring for this, or they're going to have some kind of storyline built up to this, some kind of build up? Lesnar is not good by himself, and obviously having Heyman as his mouthpiece is great, but Orton, is there any kind of storyline these two can have coming into this that will be, make you want to watch, or is it automatically, hey, I'm watching no matter what the storyline is?
I think if they juggle the fact that they were the youngest champions ever, it was Randy Orton that broke Brock Lesnar's record, and then the fact of we can always go back to the Legend Killer. Yeah.
Oh, I love that Legend Killer with the RKO NWO style. It has all the legends on the back of his shirt. You probably have that shirt, by the way.
No. I own 0 Randy Orton shirts.
That shirt.
I actually own a John Cena shirt.
Jeez. See that shirt? I loved Randy Orton. That's back in 2004. It's 12 years ago. But I love the Legend Killer, persona. I don't think they'll bring it back, but I love that kind of that young cockiness Randy Orton. Now he's more the veteran. He's established. I don't want to say he's always phoning it in, but it just seems like he just goes through the motions whenever he's, out there, not in the ring, but storyline wise. It's more of a casual stroll through the park than what we saw before, aggressive, young, ripe. It was more assertive. Now it's more, I'm more casual, Randy Orton.
It depends on the feud that he gets in. There's some that he is like that, and he doesn't care. But there's also feuds where that was really good. One of my favorites, I think, was against Christian, but not. It was after CM Punk left when they did one right during the summer. And no, it wasn't Christian. I'm trying to remember who it was off the top of my head. But there was a nice Edge and Christian bit in the ring. And Randy Orton gets on the Titantron or whatever and says, hey, Terrence and Phillip. And refers to him as that. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, that was a funny joke. Yeah. And I've often said, ever since CM Punk left, Orton seems to be happier.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's a coincidence or he didn't like CM Punk. I mean, just my view on it, but it was after that point Randy Orton actually became entertaining, and I hated Randy Orton.
He's never been the entertaining guy. He's more of the stone-faced. I always liked him as a bad guy because you don't really have to speak. You don't have to be funny when you're a bad guy. You just have to go out there and do bad guy things, like the whole Triple H, the home invasion where he attacked into the house, and where he punted Mr. McMahon and took out the McMahon family. That's my favorite Randy Orton. That was 2008, 2009, over 7-8 years ago. But that was my favorite Randy Orton. Even though maybe the storylines haven't, he went through the whole Evolution reboot and been through that, and with winning the title and WrestleMania with Daniel Bryan. It's my favorite Randy Orton is when he's the heel and he has some lackeys around him to kind of support him when he had Legacy with them. But other than that, Randy Orton is just a bland babyface when he is a babyface.
It depends on the opponent. I thought his program with Seth Rollins at WrestleMania 31
oh yeah
was that turn that he had on Raw, where he spent the last like 5 minutes just beating the shit out of him, was hilarious.
Yeah.
And even I think earlier in that night when he like kind of went off on everybody in the Authority, and then he was like, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. The whole Seth Rollins, is Orton going to be a part of, the corporation, or is he not going to be a part of it? The Authority, I'm sorry, the corporation is whatever. The Authority was not going to be in it, but that was terrific. And you're right, when he was that kind of guy joking around, it is entertaining. But overall, Orton is bankable. People still like to see him wrestle. He's a good-looking guy. He's one of the guys that can probably wrestle, and he's very, very, he doesn't get he gets hurt a little bit here and there, but he's a guy they can. Okay, he's a reliable guy to put in a storyline because he still gets the reaction, good or bad. And putting him with Lesnar, back to Lesnar, is I think the right move because you can book that right now, and they can have no interaction until SummerSlam, and people are still going to be excited about the match.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm looking forward to, and adding another match to SummerSlam, we don't know what's going to be happening with that, but having Lesnar there is a big, and having him versus Orton. We haven't seen Orton since, when was the last time we saw Orton?
In the fall-ish time?
Was he wasn't involved in that tournament, was he, for the title?
With all these slew of injuries, there's some of them I forget when it happened. Just because it's like, they're injured, they're gone, and it's going to be this long.
I want to say that it was before. I think he was supposed to be at Hell in the Cell, and he got hurt. Yeah, okay, it was before Hell in the Cell. It's in October, and he was teaming up with Ambrose to take on the New Day when the New Day was bad, were heels.
Yeah.
So Orton was a babyface. He was taken out of Hell in the Cell with a legit shoulder injury, and he's been out of action ever since. So that's October. So we're going on, almost 9 months since then, which is crazy.
Which is it's good for him because he was a character that got kind of boring.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And they can also figure out which way they want to play this.
Yeah.
Do they want to play Brock Lesnar as the bad guy, or do they want to play him as a good guy?
Lesnar's going to get a huge reaction as either one. I think the key is what is Orton? Is Orton going to come back? Orton has to be a bad guy for this to work, because if Lesnar can be a good or bad guy, it doesn't matter. But I think Orton coming as a bad guy just adds so much dramatic and theatrics to this storyline. If they do something, I don't want to see Orton go out there and be a good guy and talk high about Brock Lesnar. If he does, or he's more respectful, I want to see Orton try to punt Lesnar backstage, or take out Heyman.
Yeah,
Heyman before. Like that would be terrific. But we'll see what transpires with the storyline. But that was just announced this evening at SmackDown. Another return to SmackDown. My buddy Jerry the King Lawler. He is back at the commentary table and back to replacing David Otunga, who was on SmackDown commentary. Not very good for Otunga. People were hoping Corey Graves were going to be there, but I don't. Do you like Corey Graves as a commentator?
Yeah, I like him. I like him down on NXT though.
Yeah, I don't like him as like the heel guy on the panel. He just seems to be forcing it too much. But as a commentator when he's calling matches at NXT, I like him as a heel. But is that going to transition over to the main roster if he ever gets a chance? I think Michael Cole and JBL, like those. I don't know. Like that's key too, because no matter who you work with, and JBL and Michael Cole are the main two guys. Will there be enough mic time? Because Saxton barely gets any quips in himself. Like Saxton doesn't get anything, and so I would wait to see Graves with the call up, and with this draft, who knows? But I would love to see Graves get his time, but not with Cole or with JBL, because JBL shouts whatever McMahon's telling him in his ear. He's shouting at the top of his lungs, and Michael Cole, we all know Michael Cole, but. Yeah, I don't like Corey Graves that much.
I think Corey Graves needs more time with the company.
Yeah.
Because right now, with him being so fresh from NXT, actually being an active wrestler, it seems he's talking about more experience. But we're going to get to a time where a lot of wrestlers he wrestled are on the main roster.
Yeah.
then we can talk about putting him up there. But I mean, I'm not a person that, I don't know, commentators don't matter that much to me.
They do to I think to me, if I'm watching a show and the commentators are not good, it takes away from what's happening in the ring to me. Like I have to have the whole experience of commentators, and maybe that's because we and I both grew up in the Attitude Era, with, JR and the King, and even Heyman when he was with JR, like even Cole, and they still had the King there, like you still had heel Lawler, like that's what I kind of go against when I listen to even Josh Matthews and the Pope and TNA. I don't think Matthews is a good commentary guy at all, and Pope is just awful. But you have even Morrow. I'm not a fan of him. People love him. I don't. Just the voice. To me, it's just annoying.
He comes off JR-ish to me. And I think that's what people like about a guy who's very knowledgeable about wrestling, talking very passionately, and making actually play-by-play calls.
But if the commentary isn't what I like, or I just find JBL annoying, or Michael Cole is just going through the motions commentary-wise, it takes away from the experience. Like if we see the Social Outcasts taking on
Breezango,
whatever, or Golden Truth, match is a shit show, and it's just to take time away from the program. But if JR and it was calling it with the King, to me it'd be more entertaining. But we have Michael Cole, who is plugging the app and not really showing much emotion and not calling moves or getting excited about the match, and you have JBL shouting about whatever, it takes away from them trying what their job is, and that's to put over what's going on in the ring. And Cole and JBL, and especially Saxton, they kind of takes away, especially when JBL is talking down about people. And it's one thing to be a heel and talk down about people, but it just finds it annoying, and it takes away from the match. Like, it just takes away. So the commentary matters to me a lot. The crowd matters to me. If it's not clicking all three of those cylinders, like, it just doesn't. It's not entertaining to me. I'm gonna watch, but I'm not gonna be excited about watching it.
But I think too, it's never the commentator that matters. It's the commentary team, the chemistry.
Right, but we see Cole is always there.
There hasn't been, at least in my opinion, like a really great duo on the announce team for a very long time. I'm not even counting the three-man team. I'm just talking people who just have that chemistry. Like when people talk about Bobby the Brain Heenan, it's Bobby the Brain Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon, because they work together amazingly. And I think Bobby the Brain Heenan was a guy who, and along with Gorilla Monsoon, would take a really shit match and make it more interesting just by the commentary.
And that's their job. They're supposed to put over what's going on in the ring, no matter if these guys are low mid cards or these are the main event. Like their job is to either talk shit about the people that are the heels in a respectable way, but yet still pulling them over. And then, the baby faces, putting them over, but in calling the match, calling the story, then again, it goes into the match too, because there's 3 hours, there's commercials, ads, promos, the matches are being rushed. It's kind of hard to tell a story, but sometimes it's hard to listen because of they're not even talking about the match, they're talking about something else, or they're just ripping on these guys. It's not like the old days, and wrestling isn't like the old days anymore, but still, people listen to the show. I'm always a big old school guy, and it's just, man, I would love it. I'm glad Jerry is a heel again, but he's not the same heel as he was back in the 90s. He can't say certain things without being,
even when he was first a commentary heel with Brett, that was technically PG.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff, like you go back and watch some stuff he said about Brett's parents.
Oh, yeah.
Just you go, well, he said what?
Even the promo about Goldust, ripping on Goldust, the promo he did. Like, if he said that now, he'd be fired immediately if he said that on TV. But I know, and that takes away because they are handcuffed with what they say, and they can't be a star. They can't really kind of hound at someone that much, even though sometimes they do. And I get that, but it's the commentary matters to me enough to where it takes away from entertaining. And here's a topic I want to talk to you about: the NXT crowd at Full Sail. At the NXT crowd we see on the road, like with Brooklyn, because the Brooklyn crowd was great, and other, overseas, the England crowd. I'm not sure where they were.
The England crowd?
Yeah, they were great. But it seems like if you watch NXT on Wednesdays when they do these shows at Full Sail, especially when Nakamura's out there, the crowd tries to get themselves over more than the wrestlers, and I can't watch NXT on Wednesday nights because the crowd is just so damn annoying. And when they went, who are you, to one of the greatest managers, and they say, who are you? And they don't know who they are, who this guy is coming out with the Authors of Pain. It's like, what the hell?
I still say with that was them asking who is like that tag team. And then it could be the thing with Paul Ellering coming out.
Yeah.
Just from a distance, like not being able to recognize him. Because, the last time we seen him was the Hall of Fame. And then before that, it's been on and off for years.
I feel like saying "Who are you?"
like
when it's disrespectful for anybody. If you are a crowd,
but if it's someone who's been signed that like no one like we don't know who you are, like that when the Authors of Pain came out of nowhere, but like even I was like is this who I think it is?
Yeah, but
I'm not 100% sure.
And the whole Nakamura, when Nakamura's match, even this past when he faced Austin Aries. They're singing Nakamura songs. The whole freaking match is just annoying, and it's just takes away like that overzealous. And even when the crowds like Chicago and the big crowds, when the big wrestling crowds, even at Raw, sometimes it does get annoying, and I it's hard to watch because they're trying to put themselves over more than trying to watch a match. And you watch crowds in Japan, they're very respectful. They're not on their feet that much.
Japan crowds are a different story. They do a lot of different things that we don't do. Like,
no, I know, but I'm saying they're more respectful no matter who is in the ring. And they will get rowdy, but it's at the right times, and they're not trying to get themselves over. It's the right timing when it comes to doing wacky stuff. But it takes away, man. The commentary can kill me as a viewer, and the crowd can just kill me as a viewer because I just don't want to hear these stupid chants. We are awesome. No, dude, shut up and watch the match and react to what's going on in the ring. Don't try to. This pisses me off.
Well, you had the same thing kind of at NXT Dallas.
Yeah.
And you guys actually were for it, and I remember listening, and I don't think I tweeted about it. I'm like, what are you talking? Like when the crowd was chanting. Let them fight. For
Samoa Joe when he was bleeding?
Yeah. It's actually better that they did what they did because they made it seem like a legitimate sport. It's like if there's bleeding in UFC or boxing, you're going to have the medical trainers come out. They want to stop it. It added to it. Granted, it slowed down the pace of the match and all this, but you wanted them to go at each other more, and they were there physically in front of each other. You just were waiting for all right, go.
But the reason why they were booing when they were getting upset with the stoppage is because they know the real reason why. It's because of the whole PG, and they don't want blood. I know, but they don't want having the blood being all over the guy's face. Even though I agree it's on the network, they're still going to stop it because it's still a PG product on the network. They're still going to be PG. This is they have shows like Can't WB, which is for adults, but the NXT shows, they are for PG, just like WB Entertainment. So they weren't booing because they're stopping because they're wiping the blood. It was more the fact that the reason why is because we can't have blood on TV. If a guy has a crimson mask, wipe it away, put the camera away, from the guy until he wipes his face. I think that was the reason why they were booing more than stopping the match. They're booing the reason why they were stopping the match.
I still go with it that it's the network. That they don't care that much about it. I think it was how much he was bleeding, the amount.
Well, yeah.
Because that was ridiculous so early. I think they wanted to. All right, let's get it calmed down. This is the beginning of the match.
You saw guys like Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair and Jerry Lawler and with Memphis, like guys wrestling with completely covered in blood. wrestling, and that was cool. It adds to the effect. And like, I hate when there's like Hell in the Cell matches and cage matches and nobody has any color. Like, it just takes away from the aura of having a match like that. And you have the match with like Ambrose and Jericho. There's thumbtacks and there's all these weapons, and you telling me I hit you with a chair, even like, you know, somewhat in the back or multiple times, or not, you know, there's gonna be no blood, or hit you in the head with you know, thumbtacks or something in the back, like there's gonna be blood, but it's not the same as where you know, a guy gets thrown into the cage and, you know, cuts himself and there's blood everywhere. It takes away from the whole match. And when a guy is bleeding, not because on purpose, but because he legitimately his butt busted open, and they try to stop it, and the camera pans away, and the crowd's pissed. It takes away. But I understand it's PG, but it still takes away from me, like, the whole entertainment aspect of something happening on the fly.
I think the big difference is, like, granted, the special events are on the network, but NXT, everything is on the network.
Yeah.
And I don't recall if they have many sponsors. Like, they are their own sponsors. They are their own
Well, I know, but they still want to have... They're still figuring, well, hoping, knocking on wood, that people who watch Raw and SmackDown for the PG product, they're watching NXT on the network, that they want the continuity.
But with Raw and SmackDown, the big problem is sponsors. Like, yeah, this event is on the network, but it's being sponsored by this.
Yeah, they want continuity. They want to have everything on the same level of same rating. They don't want to have, you know, why is it fair that, you know, John Cena, biggest wrestling star right now, and but Nakamura can, you know, Samoa Joe can be bleeding all over he wants, but, you know, John Cena's, you know, is top guy. He can't do it to add to his match. I feel like it's more of an internal thing than it is.
Brock Lesnar can do it.
True, but
because you got to hold him back.
Yeah.
And we already see what happened. Like, as you were saying earlier about, like, oh, I haven't seen a Hell in a Cell match where somebody bleeds. I'm like, unless Brock Lesnar's in that match.
Yeah. And like, they can find him, whatever. They're not going to take him out TV, but like, just little stuff like that kind of irks me, especially with Nakamura and Austin Aries, that match. And I haven't, like, I will read the spoilers of NXT and like read what happens and watch the YouTube clips. You know, the short clips of what they put on, but it's just hard to watch a full program with the crowd being the way it is. It's just, it's not my cup of tea.
One of the problems with them is they're spoiled. Like, I think it was before the Brooklyn show, someone was cutting a promo, or someone was mentioned, like, oh, you know, at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn, and then everybody booed, and I'm like, you still get to see it.
Yeah.
It's not like this is going to be a house show in the middle of nowhere where Samoa Joe wins the NXT championship. No, this is an event that's going to be on the network. You were still going to get to watch it, and then they're going to come right back here when it's said and done.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how many, but I'm willing to bet at least quarter to a half of that crowd is always go there.
Yeah, they're comped. And
so,
yeah, that's the AIW crowd. They're going to have their faithful guys waiting in line early, and I'm sure NXT is the same way. These people are there, and I'm sure they're not plugs, but I'm sure they're, you know, they're you know, sort of X amount of people that no matter what, they're always going to be there front and center because they.
Well, look at Bailey's friend,
Yeah, she's always
whatever,
there.
But she's an example of someone who does that.
Yeah.
So there's definitely more.
Yeah.
I just never notice as many as others.
Yeah.
I mean, and if they had like an NXT clown, I think that'd be funny.
Well, Adam Rose was down there for a while. But.
I meant as a super fan. I'm making a reference to your favorite fan. Even though Steve Guy's okay.
Frank the Clown.
He's going to be on the Holy Foley.
Is he?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he's banging Noel.
Yeah, they were just talking about it recently.
You don't watch Holy Foley?
Yeah.
I don't know if I can. I don't know. Holy Foley was hard to watch when he was on the when they
interview
swapped trading.
Whatever. Didn't watch it.
Was it with Ric Flair's wife? I think no.
Yeah,
Piper. Was that Flair?
It was Flair.
What was the one with Piper? Piper swapped wives. I think Piper swapped wives with like a random woman that wasn't like a wrestling.
That could have been.
But I think it was Flair and something like that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Foley, I like Foley. You know, he's
to see the dynamic with the family. Yeah. I didn't know till recently that Foley doesn't say the F word.
Yeah.
And it seems like he has a great relationship with his daughter, and sounds like his sons too. I like to see more of like what they're actually like instead of just reading shit about him.
I think this is a test. I think this is more of a tryout for Noelle to see if she can do something
It could be.
backstage or wrestle if she is going to wrestle. But I know she wanted to do some stuff backstage, like an interview or whatever. This can be kind of like her test. She's really nice.
Yeah,
I've talked to her many times. Like, she's real nice to talk to, very personable. Like, I can see her as like an interview backstage, but
yeah.
Other reality show. Like, I'm not a fan of like reality shows. Just, I know my favorite wrestler, one of my favorites of all time. Like, even that discourages me because it's just reality shows.
I'm not a big fan of them either. I was watching Total Divas at first. I just got behind on it. Natalia.
Oof.
I love Natalia.
I know you do.
Don't you start on my woman.
I know you do, but it's not.
And I got her. She's going against my other woman, so they're fighting for my affection. I love this.
I just can't get into, no matter if it's wrestling or whatever, reality shows like that. It's just I can't watch drama being played out on TV knowing that it's fake. Like, I can't do it. Even though we are talking about wrestling.
I was about to say, this is a wrestling podcast, right? You know,
but I'm saying, like, oh my god, this.
It's kind of the same thing. What it does is, like, some of the other reality shows, like for Total Divas, I mean,
yeah,
like, there's a lot of women that watch that don't watch wrestling.
Oh, I know. I know it's brought in a bunch of ladies to the product.
When I posted pictures with Natalia, I would say I am Becky, but Becky's not on the show. But when I post pictures with Natalia, non-wrestling fans, I know, like, oh my god, I love her.
Yeah.
I love Total Divas. And I went, huh?
Which is
like,
great.
just not thinking of that demographic. And I know wrestling fans who like the show, I mean, not like the show, but they like wrestling, obviously. Their wives watch the show.
Yeah.
And that is the kind of a hook to kind of get them interested. Never really works.
No, they don't get fully hooked.
No.
But if their
They're
husband,
aware.
Yeah, they are aware. So if their husband's watching Raw and the Bella Twins come out, oh, that's the Bella Twins from not from wrestling, but that's the Bella Twins from Total Divas.
Exactly.
Like, you're slightly hooking them in, and maybe like 10% of them will turn to wrestling fans, but majority of them will be aware of wrestling, but they're not fully invested as, oh, I'm watching Raw and SmackDown to see Natalia. They're not going to be doing that, but they're going to be.
But when they hear the women's matches, they do start running. That's something to them. They're pulling them in. They're having them watch. I don't know if it doesn't really affect ratings or merchandise, but seems to work.
But it's the reason why that show will never go away, or they'll always have a spinoff, because it does.
I can't wait for that one.
It hooks people into, women into the product a little bit, which is a lot more than they would do if there was no Total Divas or Total Bellas. There'd be zero. So getting someone to be hooked in is great for the product, and it's someone's cup of tea out there. It's not mine, but it is what it is. And
Total Bellas is going to be awesome.
Why do you think that?
You're going to have John Cena,
okay,
Daniel Bryan, and you're going to have the greatest man that ever lived, John Laurinaitis.
Yes, true.
Okay? This show is going to be the greatest TV show of all time. And if you want, you could just go to Twitter and type #PeoplePower Total Bellas. Okay?
So now we can add John Laurinaitis to the show that has been a guest, along with Terry H.H. and Mr. Bray Wyatt, and I'm not sure who else has been on the show. Impression-wise, I think that's it.
It's the main ones.
You're the walking This Is Awesome Wrestling Show encyclopedia. You're the one. Listen to every single show, which we appreciate that. You are the intern. You have to do that. Fact check us. You do fact check.
I do.
You do. You do. It's great.
Me and other people.
Now, let's go to indie wrestling a little bit.
Okay.
You are a big fan of indie wrestling. You are always at AIW, always at the shows. Like I said, 5 years running, going to AIW, only missing a handful of shows.
It's never been my option. I'm not saying I can go and I can't go and I choose to not go.
Something happens that you can't.
Worst was, which you can hear the full story of the full show about Wrestle Rager on the AIW podcast.
You can.
But I missed that whole weekend because it was a whole weekend show.
Yeah.
And my ex hated that I went to wrestling.
Just like John Thorne's ex.
Yeah.
If you listen to I'm not sure if it came out yet, but John Thorne's girlfriend. No, it's like episode 7. yeah, John Thornton sort of broke out with him because of him going to wrestling all the time.
Yeah.
On the road. But yeah, so you're always at AIW. We always chat when you're there and watch the shows. You're very supportive of the guys that you support. In me myself, this is my second year of full time watching AIW. I was not really hip to independent wrestling before even this the show, before we done This Is Awesome Wrestling show. But you've been there a very long time coming to shows, and I have seen like some of the stuff from like 5 years ago and to now, and it seems like it's the last couple of years have been like the glory years of AIW. Would you agree with that?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
They get better and better all the time.
And we're not before we get into this, we're not sucking off AIW because that's what we're going to do. We legit feel this way. So if we don't like something, we'll say it. If we do like it, I mean, we'll talk about it.
And they've never had to cancel any of their shows.
They twice. Never. No, it's been.
At least not since I've gone. That's what I mean.
It's been, for me, they go like in the locker room, and we've done interviews, obviously on the show and whatnot, and it's opened up the curtain to watching. I mean, I've been backstage at Raw and like WrestleMania and stuff and seeing people go through the matches, but like, it's just opened up being around these guys a lot to me, independent wrestling with, newer guys trying to get into the business that may not be too polished, with veterans that come through and be able to talk with them and interact, and then seeing them go out there, AIW, and people, line up to meet Booker T or Billy Gunn or, Mickey James or Gail Kim, the people that come through that are very well established, but also featuring, guys that are up and coming, that are well known in the indies, like Ethan Page or Ray Rowe with Ring of Honor, DJ Z who's with TNA, but these guys are just the top of their games right now and putting over indie wrestling so hard. It's a perfect mixture, and I think say what you want about AIW maybe booking Southern with Parker and Bunkhouse Buck and bringing that Mixie High. Maybe it's not everybody's cup of tea when it comes to booking like older people like that.
Yeah.
But you have the right mixture of booking those people and recognize these these old timers, but also having the younger generation like the Ethan Pages and having the Ray Rose and Josh Alexanders and these guys are just putting on great matches. You have the right mixture, and I think that's my experience. And then watching previous stuff with AIW, which is pretty good, but just I feel like AIW now going to independent shows, it's very entertaining for me. I think it's for you, and they're with certain shows that they sell the place out.
It's crazy to think. I remember Ethan Page's first match in AIW, the opening for a girls' night out show versus Eric Ryan, and we fans we didn't know who the hell this guy was.
Yeah,
he might have had some sort of following, and he was bigger than we knew, but a lot of us were just like, I don't know who this guy is.
Yeah.
But we liked him in his first match, and to think that now he's at Evolve and doing what he's doing there, and it wasn't that long ago. At least to me, it doesn't seem like that long ago.
No.
I mean, you get to see those great stories. I always like the one thing that I love is that there are certain wrestlers there, at least one in particular, that I don't think will ever make it to WWE, but the effort that he puts into it makes it he's hands down my favorite wrestler, Marion Fontaine.
Okay.
I've had the conversation with him. I don't think it's a knock towards him. Like, WWE's not knocking on his door because that's nowhere near what they're looking for. But the effort that he puts into his character, to his matches, to promos, even to starting his own wrestling organization, Old Wrestling, the dude loves wrestling, and it shows.
Yeah.
And even though he knows he's not going to make that high money, he's not getting recruited by WWE. Still one of the best.
Yeah.
And Dolph Ziggler's favorite wrestler, independent wrestler.
Really?
Yeah, big fan of Marion Fontaine.
And the one guy that we'll definitely talk to, he's been on the show before, Johnny Gargano, a guy that you've seen.
Never heard of him.
A guy that you've seen a lot, especially here in Cleveland, who is now NXT, a regular down there, Evolve. He's made the rounds around the world, but his home base is here in Cleveland. AIW is his home promotion, and I didn't know who Johnny Gargano was before we interviewed him, and I'm researching this guy, getting bullet points for the interview, and now I consider him a friend, and seeing him when we talked to him about going to NXT, this is before he got the call and he was at NXT, how it would mean a lot to him and for his career and whatnot. And then fast forward a year and a half now later, and he's on NXT regularly, and he's still come back here to Cleveland, and the reaction he's getting, and it must be awesome for you because you've seen him, when he 5 years ago, and when NXT wasn't even around and WWE was not calling unless they needed a German championship wrestler to come in,
Cedric Von Hausen,
to come in and be a jobber,
or go up against Brodus Clay as Joey Gray.
Yeah,
there's Joey Gray.
Yeah, but for you, I mean, you've seen a lot of these guys mature from just starting out or being a nobody to now they are, headlining promotions not only for like NXT but also major promotions around the country and the world.
Mm-hmm. Gargano, I'm going to give you a match suggestion. If you get a chance to look it up, you might have to buy a DVD, but you might be able to find it online. Organization that used to be here in Cleveland, PWO/Prime Wrestling, went under a name change. The first match I ever seen of independent wrestling was through their promotion, through Resolution 4, and the match was Johnny Gargano versus Josh Prohibition versus M-Dog Matt Cross.
Okay. 3 good guys.
No titles on the line, just a three-way match, and it ended up being shortly after JT Lightning died. Like, they booked it, obviously, prior.
Yeah.
But he died shortly before, so it was kind of like 3 of his pupil trainees in a match shortly after. I just watched it recently. It's hands down one of my favorite matches that I've ever seen, and I wasn't there live. And just from that, like, I think I would always say that Gargano was one of the guys that really got me in, because I heard his name through friends of mine, and through friends of mine, not even here, through other podcasts, and talk all about him. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna check this guy. Oh, he's from Cleveland. No shit. Yeah. So next thing I know, he was wrestling Resolution 4, and that was the highlight reel because Kevin Nash was at that show.
Okay, yeah.
Which, that match, it's crazy to look back at it now. Aaron Draven, who's not really a big name, and Kevin Nash versus Marion Fontaine and Brody Lee, a.k.a. Luke Harper.
Wasn't like Justin LeVar involved in that match?
Yes.
Okay.
Justin LeVar was in the
Manager
corner of Kevin Nash.
So that was like outside of Nautica, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. See, I knew that stuff was going on, but I was just like, man, why would I go watch a bunch of nobodies wrestle? And like, this is me like strictly WWE, and I'm like, okay, if it's not on TV or if it's not on WWE, like, I don't care. Like, I'm the tunnel vision, and even before before the show, like before we started doing the podcast, I never was like branching off into going to a gym in Cleveland, Ohio, and watching guys that if you don't know the indie scene, you don't know who these guys are. But once you do know, you open up and you go to these indie shows and you see some old faces come through, but also some young guys, and you see these guys in Ring of Honor and Evolve. It really makes you know that that if these guys go to NXT or WWE, that these guys are really talented and wrestling is good hands in the future, because there's a lot of guys that care about the business, that care about wrestling. They are good workers, and they're going to get scooped up. And WWE's doing that. Like, they're scooping up all the good talent of indies and putting them in NXT. And there's always going to be an influx of wrestlers coming up. And, a guy like Alex Daniels, who I think is superb. I'm not sure what your opinion about him, but
I like him.
I think he needs to be polished a little bit more, but he has the talent, and whatever character he's doing, like, I'm buying into it. But he's a guy that, with a couple more years underneath his belt, NXT could come calling, or like a TNA, with his high flying capabilities. Like, you see, to be able to see someone mature and quote unquote hit the big time, it's great. And I'm glad that now I'm a part of indie wrestling and going to these shows and seeing stuff and be able to say, okay, I know about this guy. And when he does go to hit the big time, like, I remember watching this guy at a bar in Menor on the Lake, and now he's wrestling in front of 80,000 people at WrestleMania. Like, that's not only cool for them, but it's cool for us as a fan, because you felt like you've been there for the whole ride.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out who I've been I've watched them grow a lot. Even in my 5 years, I think I'm now getting to the point when people are getting signed. I'm like, I've been watching. Like, I think if Ethan Page gets signed,
Yeah.
that's going to be like, man, I feel like, and granted, I wasn't watching him his whole career, but ever since AIW brought him in, he's the guy that I've been following. I think that I love about independent wrestling, I think it was like Punk and Bryan, like hearing their story.
Yeah.
And then realizing that there's this, I mean, I knew a little bit of Ring of Honor, but I never watched. I just knew their reputation. And it just made me go, okay, who are these people?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I figured, well, I can eventually get to those people who followed CM Punk his whole career when he was in Ring of Honor. Now they're happy he's in WWE and he's the champion. Same thing with Daniel Bryan. And with independent wrestling, the way everything's going, just say not independent wrestling, WWE, it almost seems like they have a lot of spots to fill.
Yeah.
So they are going to pillage the indies. And some people say that's a bad thing, but also that gives companies and talent time to pop up better talent.
Yeah.
And they help create, like even Ring of Honor. People thought after CM Punk and Daniel Bryan and Austin Aries, oh, how's this company going to survive? And then you get guys like Kevin Steen and El Generico, and then WWE signs them. So you have to have that continuous growth, this continuous talent coming up. And I do think Alex Daniels could definitely be one of them.
Yeah.
He's not my favorite AIW student, but that's
Who's your favorite?
DRC.
He's mine too. I was hoping you wouldn't say Frankie Flynn, because then I would just erase this whole podcast and just start over by myself.
If Frankie Flynn ever gets signed, I would be a shock, because he's the only student that I knew before he was wrestling.
Okay, so there you go. You're in it from the beginning, so you can see it'll mean a little bit more to you if he gets signed.
Yeah,
if he ever gets signed.
But the doctor's awesome. I love.
Yeah, it's a great gimmick.
Daniel.
It's a great gimmick. What do you got?
I don't think it's a gimmick, man. It changed my life. I'm in a better place now than I was last
We're
year.
not marks here on the show, buddy.
I'm a mark for DRC.
How this discussion always comes up when we're at shows. I think Steve and I talked about it last week, but having these guys come on the show. Now, how do you feel about this? Because I think Steve is like more open to it, and I am like, okay, you got to do something in wrestling for it to come on the show. And like, okay, we're not in the same level as Cole Cabana or Stone Cold Jericho, but we have, our guest list is pretty, it's established. It's, okay, wow, this is good guest list. So if we add like indie guys that no one knows about, we have listeners all over, like the analytics, we have listeners from all over the world, who don't know who a Frankie Flynn is. Why would they listen to a show with Frankie Flynn or DRC or Joshua Singh or even Alex Daniels? Like, why would they listen? Do you think they should come on the show, or should we wait until they actually, quote unquote, do something?
I like majority of the students.
Yeah, me too.
I personally would like to hear them on, but here's the thing.
Would a group session?
Hold on. I think a group session might be good, but here's my thing. I listened to another show that's based in a different state, different territory.
Okay.
I'm not going to mention their names because I'm going to kind of bury them. They bring on people from their local organization from time to time.
Okay.
I mean, the guys who run the show are friends of mine.
Okay.
But when they bring on these wrestlers, I'm just like, I don't care about your nobody wrestlers who probably won't make it to anything.
Yeah.
But when they happen to get some good interviews with some great people, like one of the biggest names that they ever get on there is Rob Schamberger, the main artist for WWE, because he actually lives in that same area. But anybody else, like that friends of theirs who are wrestlers, I don't care because I'm not from that area. Now, if I was from that area, I'd be like, oh, it's cool to hear this guy on the podcast. It's great. Like, I would love to hear, Frankie Flynn or Alex Daniels or Joshua Singh on the show. But outside listeners, they're going to just go, I don't know and I don't care.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like that would be like I don't think having like a title show named Frankie Flynn is people going to care. But I think of having like, 3 students here in the studio that have, like Flynn, DCR, and Alex Daniels, 3 that come up top of my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Just because we have limited space here in the studio, limited microphones. But having maybe those 3 as a student, people getting into wrestling, just getting to the business, they're, quote unquote, fresh meat, in the business, and talking about that more than, hey, where'd you live, or who are you? Like more about the business, starting into it, than just bullshitting for an hour about no one wants to hear. I think people are interested in hearing how a student gets trained by an NXT star like Johnny Gargano. I think that'd be entertaining. So maybe I'd be open to that. Maybe having three of those come in.
Because everything when I was listening to, I'm like, I'm not for like one of them being on. I mean, as in like list from a different listener point of view.
Yeah.
But doing the whole group session, that kind of cuts everybody's audio time down shorter, so that you can cover things that you're not really stretching.
Yeah. And they play. I know like some of these guys who haven't been interviewed before, and that they are just they're not good interviewees. They're not, they're quiet, short answers. They're not speaking much, and maybe bringing them in with two other pals that they train with could open them up and bring stories out, and they could play off each other. So maybe that could work something, but not sure. I feel like our guest list, man. It's like I need to. There has to be some kind of bar that has to be set. But we love AIW, so maybe we'll do that. We'll see. Anything else you want to mention before we wrap it up, buddy?
Nothing much else I can think of.
How's your first experience being official co-host? You are now the same level as Eddie Kingston.
No, I'm not nowhere near the same level as Eddie Kingston.
That's what you told me before the show.
Because that man would kill me.
That's what you told me. You're like, I'm in the same level as Eddie Kingston. I'm treating this out right now.
Don't put that hatred on me. I don't want to die.
Well, Kingston doesn't come to AIW anymore, so you're fine.
Yeah, and I've heard that he's quit AIW before and he's come back. So trust me, he'll come back eventually, and I'll be dead.
Man. Not what I heard. It's not what I heard. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but
I don't want to die.
Yeah, he's all right. He'll be all right. He'll be all right. Follow you on Twitter. Where can they follow you? Any podcasts you want to promote? What do you want to shout out to?
I do a lot. You can follow my personal account if you want, at Heavyset330.
Okay.
You can also follow at Ohio Report. If you can't go to AIW shows, but you want to know the results, I'm always live tweeting them. I'm actually trying to make it a little bit better than it is right now. Having a couple of friends join me in live tweeting it, as in from the accounts. We'll get like more pictures, get some videos in time. And then technically, Ohio Indie Report is a podcast that I have not done since December. Really dragging my feet on that. I want to rebrand that too, but I know we always do an Absolution show. Actually, except for a couple of years ago when I missed the whole show. We're still planning on doing it. It's going to be a fan show, myself and two other AIW fans, and we're going to just kind of talk about what we think is going to happen at the show and put our picks out there. Any other shows, just to sum it up really quick, go to trendingtopicsnetwork.com. I do a shit ton of shows on there, nowhere near the quality of this show, but still, also, it's okay.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
And I was going to say the card is going to change, AIW podcast, so definitely listen to that because that's a great show.
Yeah, definitely. How do you feel? So you've been around AIW for a while. Mm-hmm. Pedro DeLuca is great announcer, ring announcer. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about Steve Guy and his ring announcing so far?
He's better than the last guy. The in-between guy.
Okay, he's better than him?
I didn't like him that much. He just didn't have that AIW feel.
Steve Guy does?
I think it's because I'm partial. I've known him for a long time.
Well, I know you have, yeah. Honestly.
Like, I don't even remember exactly how we meet except through comedy. I think that's where it was.
Yeah. So you think he's improving, Steve Guy?
Yeah.
Me too. I think he's improving.
But, I mean, he's at Pedro. Those shoes are huge.
Yeah. I don't think Steve needs to fill those shoes. I think he needs to make his own shoes.
Yeah.
So Steve will find his own niches.
Fill the shoes by making his own shoes type thing.
Basically.
Yeah.
Have you watched What's in the Basement Klopek yet?
No.
So you haven't?
I've not heard your commentary yet. And I haven't listened. I haven't bought J-Lit, or I don't buy DVDs that often.
Well, I didn't know if you bought the video online.
I need to. I don't do the online.
Okay.
I'm a
physical
collector.
This is what I do. So ever since Smart Mark put the What's in the Basement Klopek video out there to buy, and people have been commenting about the show. It's a great show. I reach in the tweets and see if anybody said about the commentary, like, who the hell is this guy? Glenn sucks, or this Glenn Moore guy. No one has said anything, so I'm pretty happy.
Well, also for you, you're also technically filling big shoes too, because Aaron.
Yeah, Aaron. Yeah,
Aaron's fantastic.
I think I'm like the third guy, because Carlson's going to be there for Absolution. Wadsworth is going to be there, so you have I think I'm rotating in, so I'm not officially like.
But everybody has heard that voice before. You're basically filling in the spot. Maybe it's not the exact spot, but that number on the roster.
Yeah, I'm getting. I got my tryout with the Back to the Future one, and then with the one match, and then the full show because Carlson couldn't come, so Bosworth and I did it.
Yeah.
So if I'm put enough to do the whole show, I have that one show forever. Need to buy the DVD.
I will eventually. There's a couple of DVDs I know I want to buy. I think Klopek might have one, because I haven't got to get to see one of the after show things.
Yeah.
So I want to sit down and like watch at least that.
I think one's on YouTube right now.
Yeah, I think one is. I didn't get to watch all that.
Yeah. So AIW, the wrestling here in Cleveland, independent scene, ARWrestling.com. The card is going to change. It's our podcast. I host it with John Thorne and Chandler Bingens, where I moderate it more. And that's every Monday. You guys listen to that. The card is going to change on Libsyn and Stitcher and iTunes. Follow our show on iTunes and Stitcher. We're on Google Play now, so if you have an Android or a Apple phone, you can listen to the show and leave a comment, subscribe, rate. Justin, I really appreciate you coming in. Buy the T-shirt. Sorry, Justin. Buy the T-shirt. Pro Wrestling Tees. Search Glenn Moore. This is Awesome Wrestling Show, and you'll be led to our T-shirt, $19.99. And if they have a promo code, they always seem to have promo codes going or some kind of sale. Really help out the show, and you get a T-shirt. And if you go to a show and Steve and I are going to be there, wear it, and we'll give you a hug or a high five or a fist bump or something. We'll take a photo. We'll just do something nice for you if you do buy a This Is Awesome Wrestling Show T-shirt. Justin, like I said, it's been a pleasure to have you. I really appreciate you bringing Chipotle. I extremely appreciate you coming in late notice to come here to co-host. I think we had a pretty cool discussion.
It was fun.
I think it was fun. Yeah, so you definitely will be on episode 100. I know you will be there for episode 100, no matter if we do it at 1 o'clock in the morning somewhere at some bar in middle of nowhere, Cleveland. We're planning on doing it not 1 o'clock in the morning, but we plan on doing it somewhere. The people come out and meet everybody from the show that listens, and some AEW people come out too. We'll make it special. So Justin will be there, and you're always welcome to come back on the show and do a fill-in if you want, man.
We still got to do the T-shirt episode.
That's true. We kind of veered away from these specialty shows. A lot has happened, so we can't prepare. But yeah, we got to do a T-shirt show. Maybe in the fall, and when there's not like anything going on wrestling.
I just want to throw that teaser out there so people know.
How many T-shirts do you have?
I haven't counted it. The thing is, I just buy T-shirts in general, but wrestling shirts, I think I'm at 160-ish.
You want to buy This Is Awesome Wrestling Show T-shirt?
No. Yes,
Why?
I will.
I'll be waiting for that email that sale.
I got the Meaning of Mature shirt, so I should get the This Is Awesome Wrestling Show shirt.
And we'll, like I said, This Is Awesome Wrestling Show shirt on Pro Wrestling Tees if you guys want to buy it. Nice looking gravel shirt with the logo on it. No names, it's just the logo. It's a simple logo. We'll have some more designs up there, as well as some cooler designs. Maybe you hold out for a cooler design shirt. Maybe, I don't know.
I know, I like that design.
Yeah, you do. Huh?
Yeah,
everybody likes the design. It took me 5 seconds to do that in Photoshop. Everybody loves it. Better than the previous one.
The previous logo with the State of Ohio.
Yeah,
good logo for like the podcast, but like as a shirt, I don't think I'd wear it. But this one, I like better.
All right. We'll talk to you guys next week. This has been episode number 91. We are 8 shows away from episode 100 with a surprise from Mr. Guy for episode 100. And thoughts are with him and his family right now. And hope to have Steve back next week. Absolution 11 is coming up. Go to AIWrestling.com for that. Facebook, Twitter with them and their shows. Zeb Coulter is going to be coming back. Not coming back, but coming back as Zeb Coulter from being released from WWE. He's going to be here in Cleveland for that show. A lot of great matches on that card as well. And they updated as the event gets closer, they'll be updating it. So go to aiwrestling.com to see what's going on. And if you're in the area, come on out and support independent wrestling.
And they just mentioned Bloodsport today.
Yeah, Dan's the Beast Severin.
And
Shayna?
Yeah, Shayna.
Yeah.
I was going to say that other chick.
They were going to be piggybacking off the UFC fight
that
here
weekend?
in Cleveland that same weekend.
And Grado will be there, even though he's not on the poster.
Yeah.
If you listen to you already know,
Yeah.
but the card is going to change.
Yeah.
It was said.
They will be there. So that would be a great show. Piggyback off UFC, and hopefully a lot of UFC people come out and see Dan the Beast Severin. And I guess CM Punk. You got like wrestling and UFC in town. That's going to be a big weekend here in Cleveland. It's going to be nice. You going to UFC?
No. I want to, because I want to see how Punk does. I want to see Stipe defend, and most importantly, my friend Just Guy. I want to see her like live, but I would probably have to get tickets off for her to get them at this point.
All right. We'll talk to you guys next week. This has been episode number 91. This is Awesome Wrestling Show. See you.